So it's official, Boruto has gone into hiatus, and that's actually a good thing. And not because I hate Boruto, no, because I love Boruto. But what does this hiatus mean for Boruto's anime? Does it mean the manga's gonna stop? Does it mean we're finally getting to Minato the previous generation? Does it mean the studio's gonna start taking the anime more seriously and cutting out fillers? Or does it mean we've seen the end of Boruto's anime as a whole? Well, there's a whole lot to unpack with Boruto's hiatus, and hopefully we're gonna accomplish that today. Because today we're gonna talk about what we know about Boruto's hiatus and what to expect from it. But most importantly, we're gonna talk about what we believe this hiatus means for the continuation of the Naruto universe. And since we got a lot to talk about today, I figured we should get right into it. Before we get right into anything, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And if you love me talking about anime that are currently not running, then you're gonna love my other channel, The Weeb Commander, where I talk about tons of anime that are over, like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood and Soul Eater. Or if you just like the idea of me talking about anime, you're gonna love my brand new anime podcast called Otaku's Anonymous, where me and Danny Mata break down everything that happened in anime this week. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So, hiatus. It's a scary word, especially to Hunter x Hunter fans. Hiatus can symbolize the death of a manga or an anime. As in the case of Hunter x Hunter, ever since Togashi began his hiatus, the anime has been unable to move forward. And while occasionally we get a couple chapters of the manga, it's never been enough for the anime to pick back up. So what does this Boruto hiatus mean for us, Boruto fans? Well, let's go over that, because this hiatus is very, and I mean very different from Hunter x Hunter's. See, as it currently stands, Boruto episode 293 is the last episode of Boruto Part 1. Well, maybe. It's kind of confusing. When talking part 1s or part 2s in the Naruto universe, usually we assume those part 1s or part 2s are before and after a time skip. That was the circumstance with OG Naruto and Naruto Shippuden, so why wouldn't that be the circumstance for Boruto? Well, it's kind of a weird spot for Boruto currently, because episode 293 ends with Kawaki awakening after his battle against Momoshiki. And while this battle was one of the greatest we've ever seen in Naruto as a whole, Kawaki awakening after this battle takes place in chapter 68, which came out over a year ago, which makes sense when you consider the fact that chapter 79 of Boruto was just released, and Boruto is released monthly. So considering the fact that the manga is about 12 chapters ahead of the anime, a year makes sense there. But even the manga is in kind of a weird spot currently. See, with the events of chapter 79 reversing the roles of Boruto and Kawaki, we are now essentially fully primed for the time skip. The prophecy that Momoshiki has been claiming that everything will be taken away from Boruto is finally beginning to be realized. And Boruto, who is currently ostracized from Konoha, now needs to leave Konoha to train, just like Naruto, which means that chapter 80, something that I've been saying for the last couple of months, will be the last chapter of pre-time skip. One, it's a round number, and that makes everyone happy. And two, we only need one more chapter really to tie up some loose ends and see what characters are heading in what directions and with who. Which is why everybody pretty much unanimously agrees that chapter 80 will be the last chapter before the time skip. Now listen, before I go into this next section here, I'd like to say that I know nothing about the animation process, and I know next to nothing about creating anime. However, at the time of filming this video, that means that the Boruto time skip is coming in the manga in 21 days. And that's just in the States. That means that the Boruto time skip will probably be coming in the next 2 or so weeks in Japan, which when considering making a manga is definitely the more important market. As so long as the Japanese version of the manga is out, so could the Japanese version of the anime be out, which means the time skip, depending on how you look at it, is either coming in 2 or 3 weeks, which for a long time I prophesized was perfect, as the anime being on roughly chapter 68 would need 2 to 3 or maybe even 4 weeks to catch up to chapter 80, which would mean that the time skip would happen around the same time for both the anime and the manga. And now obviously this is unprecedented, and the anime getting that close to the manga is a stretch. But mind you, this is a weekly anime and has been since 2017. These episodes are getting made in 1 week flat. At least the majority of them are probably getting made in a week. While obviously more animation heavy episodes like 292 and 293 have probably been worked on for a while, which means that these timelines could have perfectly coincided for both of them to reach a time skip simultaneously, at which point the anime would have taken a 2 or 3 year hiatus just like OG Naruto did, as the first episode of Naruto Shippuden aired on October 28th, while the last episode of OG Naruto aired in 2007, which would mean that the Boruto manga would get roughly 2 years to get ahead of the anime. However, that's not how it's happening. And instead of both the manga and the anime hitting the time skip simultaneously and therefore making a clean break between part 1 and part 2, there's been some terminology thrown around recently that episode 293 is the conclusion of part 1, while everything that happens after 293 is the start of part 2. Now this is weird, because for all intents and purposes, we probably need 4 episodes max to get from chapter 68 to chapter 80. Maybe if you stretch it, it'd be 5 or 6. And after those 5 or 6 episodes, we're gonna hit a time skip, which if Boruto is staying in line with the ideologies of Naruto would mean another hiatus of a couple of years. And considering the fact that there's been some preliminary rumblings that part 2 is gonna start anime-wise in October, which would make sense when you consider the fact that we're getting the 20th anniversary Naruto episodes in September, and those will probably be 4 episodes before we get Boruto's part 2 back, like 1 in each of the weeks of September, and then we roll into part 2 of Boruto. This can mean a couple of different things. 1, either they need 7 or so months to animate these 4 to 5 episodes, meaning they're gonna make these 4 to 5 episodes incredibly gorgeous, which would be cool considering the fact that chapters 68 to 80 are probably some of the most important chapters in the entirety of Boruto, but would be confusing in the fact that we would get a 7-month hiatus and then we would get 5 or so episodes and then a 2-year hiatus. However, that is operating under the assumption that there's gonna be that 2-year hiatus. See, well, obviously that 2-year hiatus did happen between OG Naruto and Naruto Shippuden. But just because that happened for Naruto doesn't necessarily mean it has to happen for Boruto. As like I've already said, the preliminary verbiage of this hiatus is to split between part 1 of Boruto and part 2, which would imply that this hiatus is supposed to be the hiatus that Naruto got between Naruto and Naruto Shippuden, which would mean that the beginning of Boruto Shippuden would be chapter 68-ish. And then 5 or so episodes into Boruto Shippuden, the time skip happens. However, if I'm being real, I don't think this is the most likely scenario. See, Boruto is currently going on hiatus for a good reason. Boruto understands that they haven't put out a canon episode since episode 212, which means there was roughly 70 episodes of filler between 212 and 282 where the canon picked back up. Almost a year and a half of straight filler. And if we're being entirely real, the only glimmering bright spot in the entirety of that year and a half was Sasuke Retsudan, with everything else being drivel that nobody watched. However, the problem is that people did watch it. See, the reason that Boruto puts out as much filler content as it does is because people still check in every week to watch Boruto filler content. With Boruto, even when it's putting out filler episodes, still holding the number 10 spot in terms of popularity in Japan. And the fact that Boruto is still cutting a check every single week on the back of Japanese loyalists means that there's no reason for them to stop the filler, at least there wasn't. You see, Boruto has received a massive amount of backlash over the amount of filler they have in their show. As it currently stands, through my own count, there is 74 canon episodes, 11 mixed canon filler episodes, and then 208 filler episodes, putting Boruto at a whopping highest ever percentage out of any anime ever, 71% filler. So if the Boruto anime was afraid of catching the manga and therefore didn't want to get to the time skip at the same time as the manga, why didn't they just put in more filler? Well, maybe because they're listening. See, the way I see it, electing to use a hiatus at this point of the story means one of 2 things. 1, they had absolutely no idea what they were doing when they started the code arc. They know how frequently the manga comes out. They've already storyboarded the majority of the anime. Why would they start the anime into the code arc when they knew they wouldn't have enough content to finish the code arc? And while that is absolutely a possibility that I am not gonna write off, I believe the more likely and more hopeful answer is that Boruto didn't want to put in any more filler. See, for being entirely real, throwing Sasuke Retsudan into the anime was kind of a Hail Mary, a way for them to cover their asses for 8 to 10 weeks, with technically filler content that people would enjoy because, hey, it's Sasuke and Sakura's love story. And sure, I enjoyed it, and sure, it got people talking about Boruto because everyone was like, oh, Sasuke's fighting dinosaurs. But after the conclusion of Sasuke Retsudan, Boruto was left with kind of an issue. Do we enter into another long and slogging anime-only arc in hopes to give the Boruto manga time to hit the time skip so we can close out the code arc in one fell swoop? Or do we just start the code arc? And just start the code arc they did. But here's the thing, when they got to episode 293, they could have just as easily, instead of doing a hiatus, decided to enter another filler arc. I mean, they only need a couple of months for the manga to get to a point where they would be comfortable enough catching up to chapter 80. What's another 12 to 16 episode arc about Chocho trying to become an actress? But they didn't do that. They purposely elected not to do that when they absolutely could have. But I think the Boruto showrunners have realized something that not even the Naruto showrunners learned. See, the Boruto showrunners understand that the code arc is probably the most important arc in Boruto's manga currently, especially with the events of chapter 79. And since they understand that Boruto's code arc is the most important arc, they don't want to split it up. They don't want to do 12 episodes of the code arc and then a 24 episode arc about nothing and then another 5 or 6 episodes of the code arc. No, They want the code arc to be a continuous watching experience for not only weekly watchers, but also those who get into Boruto at a later date. Now, the reason that I said that not even Naruto showrunners have learned this lesson is because Naruto showrunners didn't learn that lesson. The war arc is 80 episodes longer than it needs to be, and that's being generous. Every time it felt as though we took a small step forward in the war arc, guess what? Filler arc. Oh, did you just watch Mike Guy kick a hole in Madara? Here's a 12-episode arc about the tailed beasts as chibi little animals. Oh no, did the god tree just get cut in half? How about we cover the entirety of Jiraiya's book? And even when we did get small little canon segments of the war arc, there would be flashbacks that weren't in the manga spliced in, slowing down the pacing. And because of this, watching the war arc is a bit of a slog, which is why a lot of people treat the war arc like they treat Boruto. If you skip the filler, it's incredible. If you cut out all 208 episodes of Boruto that are anime canon or filler, those are the same thing, and simply watch the 74-ish episodes of manga canon content, it's very good. So genuinely, what does this hiatus mean for us? Well, it means at the very least we're not going to get to the time skip until roughly around October when part 2 starts, but I'm thinking, hoping, and praying to a god I don't believe in that we're gonna get a second hiatus. A second hiatus that's roughly around the same length as the hiatus we got between OG Naruto and Shippuden. Because by the time October rolls around and we start to see part 2 begin, we'll only be at chapter 86 of the Boruto manga. And while Boruto manga chapters are 40 pages long, while the average is only 17 to 20, that would still only place the manga 12 regular-sized chapters ahead of the anime, assuming the anime went to chapter 80. However, if hypothetically there was 2 more years after we got the chapter 80 of a hiatus, Kishimoto would be able to accomplish 24 new chapters, which would translate to 48-ish new chapters ahead of the anime. And when you add that to the 12 or so regular-sized chapters that the manga was able to get ahead of the anime during this now current 7-month hiatus, that would put the manga 30 Boruto chapters ahead or 60 regular chapters ahead, which would be good, but not perfect. See, obviously being 30 chapters ahead would give the Boruto anime some breathing room to actually dig into the manga, which is what you would want after coming out of the time skip. It's what Naruto Shippuden did with the first 50 or so episodes of Naruto Shippuden all being canon. And this is because Naruto Shippuden was created under very similar circumstances. Episodes 135 to 219 are all filler in Naruto. A lot of people don't remember this because they were young when it happened, but that was almost 2 straight years of filler. Does that sound familiar to anyone? But the problem with Naruto is that while they dug into the space that the manga had made between the anime and the manga with that 2-year hiatus, after those first 50 episodes, that space was gone. And once again, we were back to the good old 10 episodes canon, 20 episodes filler. And Boruto is honestly in a much worse position than Naruto was, as 60 regular length chapters are what most anime burn through in roughly 24 episodes, with anime like JJK and Chainsaw Man being on that exact pacing. So what would the Boruto anime do? Make 24 episodes of canon and then go back to the filler cycle? Maybe not. The release of so many brand new Naruto projects like Sasuke Retsudan, the Steve Ninja Scrolls, the 4 Naruto episodes we're getting in September, the short manga that Kishimoto is going to write about the winner of Naruto Top 99 that is definitely not related to Naruto or Boruto. And the fact that all of these projects are slated in that same time period of September-ish, with the results of the winner of Naruto Top 99 being released in April and then their manga probably coming somewhere in the line of either summer or fall of this year. And then the 4 new episodes of Naruto commemorating the 20th anniversary of the anime coming out, even though they're roughly 2 years late, coming out in September of this year. It's a possibility that Kishimoto, Viz, and Soesha are hinting at the idea of other Naruto projects running concurrently with Boruto. And since Kishimoto has to be involved in all things Naruto, as he handed over the reins of Boruto for the first 52 chapters and hated it so much that he retook them, this could mean a lot of things for the future of the Naruto universe. 1, like I've already stated, we could see other Naruto projects running concurrently with Boruto. And 2, since there's other projects running that aren't Boruto, the Naruto universe is making money off more things that aren't just Boruto. And therefore, there would be no need to make Boruto a weekly anime. Because currently, this is the biggest weakness of Boruto. Boruto is currently a weekly anime coming from a monthly manga. And even though the chapters that come out are 40 pages, this still puts Kishimoto 40 pages behind your average mangaka, as most mangaka's monthly page schedule is roughly 80 pages. And what's worse is most modern day mangaka don't have weekly anime running of the manga they're creating. Imagine if JJK was weekly. Well, actually, JJK is a really bad example because JJK is going to be done by the end of the year. And honestly, honestly, the anime is so far behind, even if it was weekly, I don't know if they would catch up by the end of the year. Regardless, bad example, I'm bad at my job. What I'm driving at here is that the biggest weakness of Boruto is its weekliness. But the reason that Boruto is weekly is because every week it cashes a check for the people who create it. A check that they are currently purposely foregoing. Think about that. Viz, Soesha, Kishimoto, everybody involved in Boruto cash a check every week from Boruto hitting the airways. And while obviously that check is bigger when it's a canon episode, it's still a check. But the Boruto showrunners are purposely foregoing that check to ensure that the code arc isn't broken up, signaling to us that there's a possibility that in the future they'll do the same. And I don't think the importance of them undergoing this hiatus should be understated, as the only time Naruto ever did it was to break up a time skip period. But who knows? Will Boruto truly become seasonal? Will it simply start back up again in October to give us 6 episodes of the code arc and then re-enter a filler cycle? Will the showrunners of Naruto learn from the mistakes of their past in Boruto and in Naruto? Will they adopt a modern day anime schedule, giving us 24 episodes every 2 or so years to not only up our animation, but up the quality of our show as a whole? Or will we settle for running a weekly schedule that gets shit on everywhere but Japan? I don't know, genuinely, but the tides feel as though they're shifting towards a more seasonal approach. But then again, Boruto has been seasonal for me for a long time. In fact, for the entirety of its running time. For the past 6 years, I've been ignoring Boruto until a canon episode comes back on, and then I'll watch Boruto for 3 to 4 months and really enjoy it, and then forget it's on for the next 2 or so years. Because at the end of the day, nobody's got a gun to your head making you watch the fillers. They're there if you want to enjoy them and be immersed in the Boruto world, or you can skip them if you don't want to watch them, like me. Even if you're rewatching Boruto, things called filler lists exist, and they are very good. And honestly, skipping filler is kind of fun because you're like, oh my god, this series is 300 episodes, however will I finish it? And then you get to episode 212 and you're like, oh my god, I want episode 282. That's how I watched Bleach. Skipping the entirety of the Bound arc, I was like, my god, I'm flying through this show. But what do I know? They didn't even tell me this hiatus was coming when I was in Japan talking to them about the future of Boruto. So I am simply a jester with an encyclopedia on cartoons, apparently. But if you liked me reading from my encyclopedia today, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. Feels as though Boruto is the only anime I could ever be like, please, stop producing content.